A mysterious, violent virus is spreading through a small town. To contain it, the military has taken a drastic approach: indiscriminate cleansing. Swarms of infected people turn into bloodthirsty maniacs, breaking through quarantine barriers and engaging in a life-or-death battle with the military. When the quarantine fails, the military, desperate to cover up the bioweapon leak, drops a nuclear bomb on their own land. In this episode, we delve into the unique zombie movie, The Crazies. The town is hosting a baseball game when an old man suddenly storms in with a gun. Given the frequent shootings, experienced townsfolk start to evacuate. Sheriff David, doing his duty, cautiously approaches the old man, trying to keep things calm and asking him to put down the gun so they can talk it out. But the old man, with a vacant expression, raises his gun at David. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, David, quick on the draw, shoots first. He doesn't empty his clip, showing remarkable restraint. This entire scene is captured by a surveillance drone. In this small town of just over 1,000 people, an impending disaster is about to unfold. The town's coroner conducts a routine autopsy on the old man who caused the earlier disturbance, revealing that he hadn't been drinking or using any drugs. The old man's wife confirms that he had quit drinking years ago. Unable to accept her husband's death, she angrily slaps David. But trouble doesn't end there. That very night, another horrific incident occurs in the town. A man, having gone completely mad, sets his own house on fire, burning his entire family alive. When David arrives at the scene, the fire is already out of control. The man stands there, nonchalantly whistling, showing no signs of remorse or grief. His behavior is beyond insane. Meanwhile, several townsfolk who went hunting in the woods made a startling discovery. In a swampy area, they found a decomposing pilot's body tangled in a parachute. Upon receiving the alert, David immediately rushed to the scene. Based on the state of decomposition, it was clear the pilot had been dead for at least 7 days. But where was the plane he had been flying? Determined to find the wreckage, David and his deputy, Russell, took a boat and followed the river. Before long, they discovered the downed plane at the bottom of the riverbed. Instead of feeling relieved, David grew even more concerned. A plane crashed so close to their town, yet there was no mention of it in any newspapers or news reports. It was highly unusual. Connecting the dots between the recent murders and the plane crash, David suspected there was a link. To verify his suspicions, he examined the town's water supply system blueprints. Sure enough, he found something suspicious. The elderly man David shot at the ball field was from the household closest to the contaminated water source. If the water supply was compromised, it spelled big trouble. David immediately rushed to the mayor's house, shared his suspicions, and urged the mayor to temporarily shut off the town's water supply. However, the mayor dismissed David's concerns, arguing that there wasn't enough evidence and that they couldn't risk disrupting the agricultural irrigation. Despite the mayor's refusal, David decided to take matters into his own hands and shut off the town's drinking water supply. Upon returning to the police station, they found that the deranged man who had burned his family alive had mutated further. His veins were bulging and his face was twisted with rage. Realizing the severity of the situation, David quickly tried to contact higher authorities. However, to his dismay, the phone lines were cut off, and even the internet was blocked. Desperate for help, David went out to the streets to find a signal, but he was met with an eerie silence. The entire town had suddenly gone quiet. Where had all the residents gone? At that moment, David heard strange noises coming from the morgue. Curious, he walked in and pulled back a sheet, revealing a man whose eyes and mouth were sewn shut. As David reached for a pair of scissors to free him, the coroner attacked him. Seeing the coroner's vacant, cold, and pale expression, David realized he too was infected. The coroner, not caring about David's realization, picked up a chainsaw and attempted to kill him. Fortunately, David's years of training and combat experience allowed him to fight back and ultimately kill the mutated coroner. Aware that the town might be on the brink of chaos, David knew he needed to act fast. However, with communication cut off and a shortage of manpower, he felt temporarily powerless. He rushed home and told his pregnant wife, Judy, to pack up and leave town immediately. Judy, however, refused to go alone. As they argued, a group of heavily armed soldiers burst into their home. Without a word, the soldiers forcefully took both of them and loaded them onto a school bus. David and Judy found themselves among many other townspeople who had been rounded up. Under the soldiers' escort, they were transported to a makeshift quarantine camp. Such elaborate measures indicated that something significant had happened. However, most people remained clueless, unaware of the unfolding crisis. Next, soldiers in protective suits began checking the residents' temperatures one by one. Anyone with an abnormal temperature was immediately taken away for isolation. Due to her pregnancy, Judy's temperature was elevated, leading to her being classified as an abnormal and placed in isolation. As Judy was being strapped to a hospital bed, chaos erupted in the quarantine camp. Some of the already infected, crazed individuals attacked the guards. The soldiers retaliated with gunfire, which sparked widespread panic and chaos throughout the camp. Frightened crowds, mixed with some infected individuals, broke through the barriers and began to flee. The military's quarantine forces had no choice but to fight back while retreating. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, the soldiers decided to abandon the innocent, uninfected civilians. They hastily boarded their helicopters and retreated. As the riot raged on, David and Russell seized the opportunity to return to the police station. They grabbed weapons and replenished their ammo, preparing to head back to the camp to rescue Judy. Unbeknownst to them, danger was already closing in on Judy. In the eerily silent corridor, an unusual scraping sound echoed. Suddenly, a crazed individual dragging a 5-pronged pitchfork appeared behind the curtain. He stared coldly at the patients lying on the beds and slowly raised the pitchfork, driving it down with brutal force. Moving to Becca's bed next, the crazed man prepared to repeat his violent act. Realizing what was about to happen, Becca began to struggle desperately. Driven by the urge to save her, Judy shouted, successfully drawing the man's attention. The crazed attacker turned and dragged the pitchfork toward Judy. Just as he was about to strike, David arrived in the nick of time, shooting the crazed man dead. Without pausing to comfort anyone, the four of them hurried outside, intent on finding a car to escape the town. Unfortunately, the streets had turned into a wasteland, with no functioning vehicles in sight. They had no choice but to proceed on foot. Under the cover of darkness, they reached a nearby farm. As they began to search for a vehicle, they were suddenly stopped by a young man brandishing a gun. Tensions were high until both sides confirmed they were all uninfected. The young man lowered his weapon. Just then, David sensed movement and urgently motioned for everyone to hide inside the barn. Moments later, a search team stormed the farm. Through the gaps in the wooden planks, they saw soldiers roughly dragging a woman out of the house. The young man, seeing his mother being mistreated, instinctively rushed out to save her. Tragically, before he could get close, the soldiers, mistaking him for an infected, shot him dead on the spot. His parents, devastated and enraged, also rushed towards him, only to meet the same fate. It was clear that the military was resorting to extreme measures to cover up the outbreak, leaving no room for mercy. Things took a turn for the worse when one of the soldiers began moving towards the barn to search it. As he drew closer, David and Russell sprang into action, swiftly overpowering him. From the soldier, they learned the harsh truth. The military had orders to kill anyone they encountered to prevent the virus from spreading, under a shoot first, ask questions later mandate. After spilling what he knew, the soldier pleaded with David to spare his life. At that moment, another soldier approached, calling out for his comrade. David, realizing they couldn't afford to be discovered, decided to take a risk. He hinted to the captured soldier that if he wanted to live, he needed to handle the situation. Understanding the stakes, the soldier, worried that his teammate might discover his compromised position, decided to draw his comrade away to save himself. At dawn, the group returned to David's house to gather essential supplies and prepare to hit the road. They waited anxiously, but Judy did not come downstairs. Sensing something was wrong, David went upstairs to check on her. As he opened the bedroom door, he found Judy bound to the sofa. Before David could react, a man grabbed him from behind, choking him. Struggling to reach for his gun, David felt a sharp pain as a woman stabbed his hand, pinning it down. His assailants were the mother and son of the old man David had shot at the baseball field, now infected and seeking revenge. Seeing the man point his gun at the pregnant Judy, a surge of primal fury coursed through David. With a burst of strength, he broke free from the chokehold and, with his hand still impaled, used the knife to stab the woman in the neck. The son, enraged, raised his gun to shoot David. In the split second before he could pull the trigger, a gunshot rang out. David turned to see Russell, his deputy, standing in the doorway with his gun still smoking. Russell had arrived just in time to save David. Infected individuals were everywhere, making it clear the town was no longer safe. The four of them, David, Judy, Russell, and Becca, decided to flee by car. However, the military had established roadblocks and deployed armed helicopters to patrol the area. Spotting a helicopter overhead, David quickly turned into a car wash to evade detection. While they managed to avoid the helicopter, they weren't so lucky with the crazies nearby. The infected swarmed the vehicle, attacking ferociously. After a fierce struggle, they managed to break through the mob and escape. But Becca wasn't so fortunate. An infected person had thrown a cable around her neck, dragging her out of the vehicle. David and the others immediately got out to rescue her, but it was too late. Becca's neck was broken. In a tragic twist, Becca's sacrifice inadvertently saved them from the helicopter's missile strike. With their car destroyed, the remaining trio had no choice but to continue on foot. As they checked an abandoned car for supplies, an SUV sped towards them from behind. David prepared to use his gun to stop the vehicle, but Russell recklessly stepped into its path, forcing the driver to halt. David pulled out the driver, a military officer, demanding to know what had happened in the town. The officer didn't hold anything back. He explained that the crashed plane David and his group had discovered in the lake was carrying a biological weapon developed by the military. The crash inadvertently released the virus, which causes people to lose their sanity and turn into emotionless berserkers. Infected individuals first experience a fever, followed by bleeding from their pores and pale skin with prominent veins, clear signs of infection. As David was about to ask more questions, Russell suddenly became extremely agitated and shot the officer dead. It was clear that Russell had also been infected and was on the verge of losing control. Despite this, David, who had worked with Russell for many years, managed to calm him down and took his gun away. They continued their journey, eventually reaching the military blockade. At this point, Russell stepped forward, perhaps aware that his time was running out and wanting to make a final act of sacrifice. He decided to help David and his family escape. Carrying a gun, Russell deliberately attracted the soldiers' attention by approaching them. Just as he was about to fire, the military decisively shot him down. With Russell creating a diversion, David and his wife seized the opportunity to escape. They sprinted along the highway, eventually reaching a service area by nightfall. The place was eerily silent, long abandoned. The ground was littered with spent shell casings and trucks full of corpses that hadn't been disposed of, indicating a hasty and chaotic military retreat. As they split up to scavenge for useful supplies, Judy discovered a few berserkers still lurking in the area. She managed to avoid detection by hiding among the piles of bodies. Meanwhile, David found a military walkie-talkie, which broadcasted an urgent message: clearance operation commencing in 8 minutes. Though unsure of its exact meaning, he knew it spelled trouble. Reuniting quickly, the couple realized they needed to leave immediately. They decided to escape in a large truck, but found the keys still attached to the belt of the deceased driver. David hurriedly retrieved them, but as he turned around, he accidentally alerted a berserker. The creature shattered the window, attempting to launch at them. David scrambled back into the truck, but a hand grabbed his ankle, pulling him under the vehicle. Judy screamed for help, trying to aid David, but a berserker with a gun attacked her. Meanwhile, David was locked in a fierce struggle with the berserker assaulting him. Inside the truck, Judy remained composed. As the berserker opened the door to get in, she hid and ambushed him, taking him down with a precise shot. David, too, managed to turn the tide. Using a steel plate, he knocked his berserker down and then ignited a pool of flammable oil, engulfing the berserker in flames. Without wasting any time, David started the truck, and they sped away from the service area. The walkie-talkie warned them that the countdown had reached 30 seconds. Uncertain about what would happen when the countdown reached 0, David kept his foot firmly on the gas pedal. Suddenly, a blinding white light illuminated the night sky. The military's clearance operation was a nuclear strike to annihilate everything. The shockwave from the explosion quickly overtook them, flipping the truck over. Perhaps because they were far enough from the explosion's epicenter, the couple miraculously survived. As they stared at the rising mushroom cloud, they were at a loss for what to do next. The military didn't care about a few additional lives. As they staggered towards the next town, a satellite in the sky tracked their every move, setting the stage for the military's second round of isolation and clearance operations.